Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you, everybody, for coming today. Whether you're from our office, from another office, from out in the industry, somebody, a client. So we appreciate you. The Investor Club here is open to the public, essentially. So if you know somebody that should be in this room, please invite them next time. And we look forward to continue growing and continue serving the community. So my name is Emily Cortright. I am the Wealth Ambassador for the office. And what that means is that, hey, Chris, how are you? Welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Yep. What that means is that we have a national group called KW Wealth, and I go to the KW Wealth masterminds. I participate in the trainings. I help lead the trainings. And then my role is to take what I learned from our leader, Brett Tanner and Gary Keller, and bring it back to the agents in our office and essentially the community as well. So this is a really great foundational roadmap to wealth class. We're going to talk about a lot of things, and then we're going to tie it all together at the end. If you don't have a handout, let me know. I've got a lot of QR codes because pretty much everything that I have for you in paper, I also have the digital version available because I know everybody's a little bit different. Not everybody wants to use paper. Okay, just a quick background. I have been an investor for the last 11 years. So I've been with Keller Williams 11 years. I've been an investor the entire time. Came in starting with single family flips and rentals, then transitioned to large multifamily syndications. We're talking like 200 unit on average. So we've done 8 of those, still have 6 of them. And then at that point, the market started to shift, but it was also right around the time when I joined KW Wealth. And when I joined KW Wealth, I thought I was an experienced investor and that I knew a lot. But in reality, come on in, welcome. In reality, I have learned and implemented an amazing amount of knowledge the last year and a half just from KW Wealth, their masterminds, their community, learning from Brett Tanner, learning from Gary Keller. And it has improved our entire, I would say, wealth picture. Like our whole portfolio has benefited just from the little things that we've done. And so there's a lot of little habits that you can implement into your life that can make big changes, that can make that can lead to big results. And so we're going to talk about a lot of those today. So we're going to start with personal financials. It sounds boring, but it is literally the most important habit that you can be doing. And I'm actually going to kick it off with a message from Wendy Papasan, who is she is one of the, I would say, Gary Keller's right-hand woman, and she's going to tell you why her and her husband, Jay, rely on their personal financials and net worth tracking. Then we're going to go into some wealth mindsets. We're going to talk about 4 conditions of money, which is from the Millionaire Real Estate Investor book. Then we're going to talk about the path of money, which is in the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book. Risk versus noise, and then we're gonna end with like a GPS. So trying to figure, making a plan for where you're gonna go next. So I want to start with this. It's about 7-minute video from Wendy Papasan, and when I heard her talk about this, it hit me in the sense of this is the message that I wish I could say as well as her. And so instead of trying to say it better than her, I just want her to say it.
Well, let's get started. We've got a few people rolling in, but
and just so you know, she's going to talk about there's a women's group that she leads for net worth. So she's going to mention that group. This was the kickoff video for that group. So it's not necessarily speaking to a broad audience. It's more speaking to her women's group, but the message in general is what I want you to focus on.
well, let's get started. We've got a few people rolling in, but I appreciate those of you that were here on time. Just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Wendy Papasan, and I am super excited. I'm chairman of the board for Her Best Life, which is the organization that's kind of affiliated with the Net Worth Club. And I'm super excited because this club is I don't even know, like a 5-year dream for me coming true tonight. So nobody succeeds alone. This is an idea that I had, my husband and I had a goal of helping people become millionaires. And that's been a goal of ours for a long time, over a decade. And probably about 6 or 7 years ago, I turned to him and I said, well, what are we really doing what are we really doing to help people become millionaires? And it's nice to say that, and it's nice to have that as a goal, but what are we really doing? And so then at that time, we started a net worth club for our teams. So we started meeting once a month, tracking our net worth and helping our team members become millionaires. And I'm happy to say that we've made many, many millionaires on our team. And right now, the average net worth of people on our teams is about 1.6 million. And that's not with us in there. And so I'm just really excited to be here tonight. And some of you maybe know what you're getting into. Some of you don't know what you're getting into. But I just want to let you know, like, there's no need to be nervous, right? Everybody starts somewhere with their net worth. And when Jay and I started, we started tracking our net worth about 20 years ago. And when we started tracking our net worth, we had just moved to Austin. And we were renting. Jay had a 401k, and we had a lot of debt. Honestly, not a lot of debt. We had some debt. We had school debt, and so we ended up tracking our net worth, and our net worth was about $2,200, so $2,200. And we weren't young. We weren't old, but we weren't young. We were both about 30. And it was actually great in a way, because a lot of people, when they start tracking their net worth, they're in debt, and that's okay if that's you. But it was a big aha moment for us, because we realized that we'd both been collectively working for about 22 years, you know? And so here we were with a net worth of $2,200, which essentially equated to about $100 for every year of work. And that was really startling for me. And I think about my dad, who I love, who worked hard his whole life, a very hard worker, but never put his money into investments. And so here he is. He's going to be 82 this year. His net worth is very low. 60 plus years of work, and he has really literally nothing to show for it. And so this habit of tracking our net worth has just been super powerful for us as a couple and as individuals, because it allows us to focus on the right things. A lot of times we're focused on income, right? We think about, our parents tell us to become a doctor or a lawyer or, a realtor or get in sales, whatever that is. And the reality is those people that are on the Forbes, richest 500 list, they own businesses and they own assets. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of times we're tracking the thing that doesn't matter, because if you make $250,000 a year and you spend $251,000 a year, what are you? Broke. You're broke. Yeah, you're in debt. You're in debt. And so net worth helps us also think about what we're spending, okay, and the assets that we're creating. And so that's why we're here tonight, guys, is because I want everybody to go on this journey just like we did. And I want you to look up and be wealthier than you ever imagined, in 5 years, in 10 years, in 15 years, or 20 years. And I just want to share my screen briefly before we introduce our lovely co-host, Deb. But here is a screen share of our net worth over time. So you can see we started tracking in the early 2000s. Our net worth was not very much. And then all those years in the 2000s, 2005, 7, 9, 10, 12, nothing changed a lot. Although we were building our assets then, we were acquiring investment properties and investing in the stock market. And then somewhere about 2015, all that hard work that we'd done for 10 plus years, all of that feeling poor, honestly, because we felt poor. We felt poor in those 10 years. All of that feeling poor starts to take off because of the hard work that we've been doing for the last 10 years. And it's not sexy to think about being thrifty for a decade. Like nobody's, I'm not going to sell a lot of late night infomercial products with that tagline, but that's really the reality of it, and that's really what success looks like. It's sort of managing expenses, tracking your net worth, understanding what's important, and then you can look up one day and you can be wealthier than you ever dreamed possible. And I am here because I want that for you guys. And the best way to do that is this one habit. This one habit of net worth tracking is for sure the most powerful habit that I will ever do. And it's very simple. You do it once a month, right? And now you guys get to come and you get to basically have a happy hour once a month and do it with your friends, which is really cool too. So that's kind of an overview of the genesis of the Net Worth Club. And we're here because, like I said, I want you guys to be on this journey with me. And what you focus on expands, right? Water what you want to grow. And so that's what we're doing here tonight.
So that's the same message that I have for you. I want all of your net worths to grow. I want them to double, triple, quadruple, 10x. But I can't do it for you. I can only teach you the habits. I can teach you I can give you the tools necessary. But we all have to take our own accountability to actually implement it, to actually want it, to actually go out there and track our financials, track our net worth, and learn about investing, make the investments. You're never going to learn more than when you actually make your first investment. Like, the actual hands-on experience is going to teach you so much more than ever reading a book or listening to a podcast. So let's make sure. So this is one of my favorite quotes from that video. The one habit of net worth tracking is, for sure, in Wendy's words, the most powerful habit I will ever do. And it's very simple because you only do it once per month. And me and my husband, we sit down once a month. It's usually the first week of the month where we track last month's financials, and we call it our monthly money date. So you can make it fun. You can have a glass of wine. You can, go off site. You can go to a restaurant, go to a Starbucks, go to wherever you want to go. You can come use the conference rooms here. Make it fun. And sit down with your spouse and look at your financials.
Wait.
Yes.
Curious, what do you do about your multifamily syndications that are liquid days? You mark them to markets? You kind of at your cost basis? Are you about to track this?
We usually keep them at our cost basis. So he's talking about passive investments. So if I put $50,000 into a deal and I put it in 3 years ago, typically I'm going to keep it at $50,000. Because I don't know if that deal is going to be great. I don't know if how it's going to do. It actually might, if I were to adjust it every month, it would go up, down, and it would be a big guess. So I usually keep them the same until we know for sure that there's a sale coming up.
You decrement it if you get a cash out refi, or
if
that's trouble.
If there was a cash out refi and I knew that my principal had gone down, like if I invested 50 and I just got 30 back, I would probably change it down to 20. Yeah, at that point. Good question. I'm going to see if I can make this full screen. There we go. So, quick overview. When you were talking about personal financials, one of the biggest reasons that you do them is to, one, make sure you are profiting. She mentioned if you're making $250 a year and you're spending $251, you're actually broke. You're not making any money. So we want to make sure we're profiting. We should have goals and budgets. We're not going to talk about budgeting today, but me and my husband will we have an annual budget, and at the end of June, we look and see how we've done for the year. And are we meeting our budget? Are we spending too much? Are we making more than we thought? How are we doing? Kind of just a mid-year pulse. And then we'll also look at it at the end of the year. And then we're going to talk about asset allocations. So basically that means, what assets do you own and how are they performing for you? You're not going to know that until you write them out. And so we're going to talk through that a little bit more. Really, though, the personal financials becomes the beginning of your roadmap. It is the foundation of your roadmap to creating wealth, to developing your investment strategy. It's also been the tool that my husband and I have looked at whenever we're ready to make a big investment. If I've got an opportunity for a $50,000 investment, I go back to my balance sheet and I say, do we have the money and where is it going to come from? And that's going to show me where it's going to come from. Or if I don't have the money, I'm going to know by looking at my balance sheet. So we're going to do some quick examples, make sure everybody understands what goes on these personal financials. The first one is tracking what we earn and what we spend. So our income and our expenses. And when you subtract those two things, you're going to get your profit. Now, what kind of things would be on your income side? Compensation. What else? Rental income. Love that. Capital gains. Yep. Any other guesses? Trading, stock gains. We've got dividends, interest, royalties, salaries. If you have a spouse that's a salary position, all of those are going to be on your income list. Now, how about expenses? We have personal expenses and we have business expenses. Some people, their business is simple enough that it can all be on the same P&L. And if you look at the example I gave you, it actually is on the same one. So I'm going to give you the answers here. If you have a fairly simple business, you could probably put it all on one sheet. If you have a complex business with a big team and things like that, you probably need a separate income statement or profit and loss statement for that business. So we have personal expenses like utilities, mortgage, your car payment, everything like that. And then you have your business expenses. So give me examples of business expenses. Fees, office rent, MLS fees, yes. Marketing, signs.
Gas.
Gas from your car, your vehicle, all of those things that are tax deductible, your travel, the conferences, the legal professional fees, all of the above. And so all of that goes on your profit and loss statement. And there's a couple different ways to say this. It's called a profit and loss. It's called a P&L, and it's also called an income statement. So they all mean the same thing. They all mean your income and your expenses. And so the quickest way to say it is P&L, profit and loss. So if I say P&L, that's what I mean. I mean your income and your expenses, which at the bottom line, and you have the QR code on the front, on the balance sheet page, links you to an Excel spreadsheet. So that if you want to put in these numbers, it will calculate it for you and show your profit at the very bottom. Now, the second sheet, which you also have in front of you, this is to determine what you own and what you owe. So what you own are called your assets. Things that you owe to people are called your liabilities. So if you name some assets, if you haven't cheated and looked at the list.
Bank account.
Bank accounts. Yep. IRAs, savings, your house. Yep. A rental property. Perfect.
Gosh.
All of the above. There's a whole bunch of intellectual property, furniture and equipment, notes like owner finance notes, things like that. What about liabilities, things that you could owe to somebody else? A loan, a car loan, a home loan, a credit card loan, taxes, judgments. Hopefully we don't have any of those. Yeah. Medical bills, that's very, very common. Medical bills, we're seeing line of credit. All of those are liabilities. And if you take your assets, what you own, and subtract your liabilities, what you owe to other people, then you get your net worth. And so, again, all of this is provided on an Excel spreadsheet if you'd like it. And if you put in the numbers here, you will find out your net worth. Now, this is called a balance sheet. So if you've never taken an accounting class, balance sheet is what has your assets and your liabilities on it. And it is what tracks your net worth. So when Wendy Papazan says your net worth tracker, she means your balance sheet. Okay, net worth tracker sounds a little bit cooler, but it's the same thing. Net worth tracker, balance sheet, same thing. What you own and what you owe. So you've got these two, and these are the literal two most important pieces of paper when it comes to your personal financials. And this is it. Your P&L and your balance sheet. And so when you do your monthly money date with your partner, your spouse, or yourself, these are the two things that you're going to fill out every single month. And similar to Wendy, she is a role model for me because my husband and I have been tracking our net worth for 13 years. So I'm behind her. She's been doing it for over 20 years. But we are starting to see the hockey stick effect. We're starting to see it. It's starting to just skyrocket. And it doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, but you'll never know that you're getting better until you start seeing it month over month, year over year. So let's just do a quick reality check and make sure we understand where different things would show up on our personal financial statements. Now, if you have a realtor commission, where would that show up?
Income.
Income? Yep. And did you have expenses probably associated with that? Is that realtor commission an asset necessarily? No. Is it a liability? No. So it's only going to show up on your P&L.
Ew.
A normal commission coming in usually wouldn't show up on your balance sheet.
Yes, so
Unless it's owed, yes. Hey, Nick, how are you?
Hello.
There you go. That's okay. Come on in.
Earlier, wasn't it?
Nope, 10. You're good.
God, eat soup.
So what if you have your personal home with a mortgage on it? Where would that show up? Does it create income? Not usually. Does it cause expenses?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Is it an asset?
And then got
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, we're going to count it as an asset. But do you have a liability on it if there's a mortgage? Yes. So your personal home is actually going to show up three places. It's going to show up on your income statement and your balance sheet. There, you have expenses associated with it. You have an asset value, meaning like, what is that home worth? You can use, and going back to Chris's question, like we probably only update our personal home's value every 6 months. Like I'm not going to change it every month, but every 6 months I'll look at the MLS and say, oh, what were the comps this month? And then my mortgage actually goes down every month. So I do gain equity. I gain net worth every single month as I pay down my mortgage. Let's do one more. How about a mortgaged rental property? Do I bring in income? Do I have expenses? Do I have an asset? And do I have a liability? Yes. It is all four. It will show up on all four, both documents, all four places. So that's just to kind of get an understanding that some things show up only on one, only on the balance sheet. Some things show up only on the profit and loss statement. Some show up on both. Now, a lot of people say, well, I have so many credit cards. How am I ever going to track my expenses? There are a lot of software that is out there. There are some free options and there are some paid options. I used to use mint.com, which was free. It is now gone. It merged with Credit Karma and their tracking software is horrendous now. So I had to switch to Monarch. But there's also Empower and Rocket Money. And then there's Simplify, which is another paid one. Monarch is paid. I think we pay $100 a year, $120 a year. So it's like $10 a month. And what Monarch does is it merges all of my spending together. And I'm going to show you some screenshots because that's just the easiest way to show it. And so I have it linked. We have, let's say, 3 different credit cards. I have it linked to all 3. And so all of the transactions from those 3 credit cards come in. And all I have to do is categorize what that spending was for. So if you look at the first line, I'm not sure if this will work, is Venmo, right? Venmo could be anything. Same with Amazon, same with PayPal. So this particular Venmo for $60 was a babysitter, right? So I go in and I select childcare from the drop-down list. Now I could have selected the next one. The next Venmo was my grass cutter for $35. And so in that one, I select lawn and garden. Now it learns, now Primrose Daycare, it learns that every week I have to pay $338 for daycare. And so just like a lot of other software these days, once you set it the first time, it starts learning. And so you really don't have to categorize that many things because there's only a few like Venmo and Amazon and PayPal that it doesn't know what it is. And I don't even know. I have to go back and look at my Amazon account. Like, was that groceries? Was that diapers? Was that, what was that?
That's a pain.
Well, you just pull up your Amazon orders list and run down it. It's not that bad.
It's on the receipt.
Yeah.
That's why you have two things where the two things.
Well, yeah, if you have two different Amazon accounts, you will have to open both of them, yes. So all you need to do is adjust the category. And then what it does at the end of the month is it spits out my totals. So it aggregates my spending. And so all I have to do is go to Monarch and it will tell me, okay, you spent $700 on groceries and food this month. You spent $200 on shopping. You spent $1,000 on kids. And I just want to show a few screenshots. This is what you see when you just open up the app for Monarch. It's really cool because it shows you your income and your expenses for the month. And it aggregates them. And then to the end of the month, you can go back and you can say, okay, what were my totals from last month? So this used to be a lot harder when there weren't software capabilities like we have now. But I still encourage you, and Brett Tanner actually just said this on a training yesterday that I was in. I still encourage you to take the numbers from your software and put them into a spreadsheet because it's going to give you accountability. It's going to make you realize like, oh man, did I spend $1,000 and $1,074 on childcare. Well, can I trim that? Well, no, probably I can't trim that one because daycare has set prices. But travel and vacation, I could adjust that. Like that's under my control. There's a couple of these that are under my control and a couple that aren't. And you'll get accountability each month as you put them into your tracker to see how you're doing and see the last month too.
It's just a joint on Monarch.
It is. Yep. So we have, I put my credit card, I linked my credit card, he linked his credit card, and we have a joint card as well. And so it tracks if you want it to, it has capabilities for you to put in your assets as well. And usually, if you were to put in a rental property, it'll usually just pull from Zillow or something that's quick, but it'll update the estimate or the estimated value on a daily basis. And so you could use Monarch or Simplify to track your entire net worth. But again, the point about actually putting the numbers into a spreadsheet just gives you more accountability and makes you realize, come on in.
I'm sorry. I'm looking for my handouts.
Oh, I haven't seen them. It makes you realize what you're actually spending, whether your assets are going up, whether your liabilities are going down. The coolest thing you do is when you sit down and you're like, oh, I get to add a new line to my assets because we just made a new investment. That's a really cool feeling to say, I just grew my net worth. This is me on the path. Every line that I get to add to my asset column is like a celebration.
Sorry, one more question.
Yeah.
Just for personal expenses, or is there another page that's for the business expense?
So you could use the tags to separate out business. So I could put business dash marketing, business dash MLS fees, business dash office fees. And so you could sort it. It'll let you export everything. And so if you wanted to keep the business expenses separate, that's how I would suggest doing it, is just with the tag name. Personally, we use QuickBooks for our businesses because when we were flipping houses, it's a separate bank account. There's just a lot of transactions going in and out of the business bank account. So I do keep my business stuff separate. So I only use Monarch right now for personal. But you could, if you have a very simple business, you could have it all in one. And I would just suggest using the tags to help you. Yeah.
Those are just doing the ultra business. RealtyZam is awesome.
Which one?
It's called RealtyZam.
Okay.
Realty plus the AM.
Realty Zam. Okay. Great. Thank you for the suggestion.
How long you been listening to us?
So we've only been using Monarch about a year, because we had been mint.com users for 10, 11 years, but they just went away. Yeah.
Personal experience, but I used to track everything on an Excel spreadsheet just for my training and everything, but it got to be a pain. And when I talked to a lot of people in the business I was in, a lot of people were using QuickBooks. I agree with you. You have a large business and you have other people's money, you really do need to use QuickBooks.
Yes.
But for personal, I have found Quicken to be a great tool.
That's good.
And everything you've talked about allows you to do that in Quicken so much faster.
Yeah.
And the slicing, dicing, all those features are in Quicken, and you can use the tag feature to say, like I have one that says Realtor. So
Yep.
I can hit a button and I can see everything in my Realtor account. I've got another line of business and I can hit that tag and boom, see all the activity on that, or just see it all in one thing to get the network.
How much is Quicken per year? Do you remember?
No, I can't. I mean,
Okay.
if it's like $100, $200, it's worth it
Yeah.
for everything that you're going to need to track.
Quicken is definitely less expensive than QuickBooks, and I would say a little bit more simple to use.
Go to Sam's, like, sale, like November or something like that.
Okay. Sam's has Quicken on sale. Quicken, probably licenses or,
Yeah, it's going to take you some time to set up.
yep.
But
Yep.
one of the features they have is like if you have a real estate business, it'll tell you what your chart of accounts should be. You can import all that in.
That's great.
Does Quicken, I'm just curious, does it actually connect like this does?
Yeah, it's connect to your bank accounts.
Okay, so you can
Connect your bank accounts, they online, do all your reconciliation. That's true. The same thing with credit cards.
says found this easier than Quicken Speed personally. It's everybody's personal experience.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to do a quick workshop, hands-on. What I want you to do is I want you to take the balance sheet and the P&L, and if you know the number, if you have a general idea, start entering them in. We're going to take 3 to 4 minutes. If you don't know your numbers, just put a check mark next to the ones that you have in your life. So, do you have a personal checking? Yes. Okay, I need to go get that number. Do I have a personal savings? Yes. Do I have business checking, business savings? Do I have mutual funds, stocks, vehicles? Just do an inventory and see what you have in your personal life that you would need these. Which lines do you need from the balance sheet? Which lines do you need from the P&L that are applicable to you? Okay. So your homework is to start filling this out. After September ends, open up your phone for the first week of October, put a calendar notice, a calendar invite for an hour, and call it your monthly money date. The first week of October, and you're going to be looking at September's numbers. Now, the first month may not be perfect. It may just be oh my gosh, how am I going to, what system am I going to use? How am I going to pull together all these? But that is your homework right now, is to set a monthly money date on your calendar for the first week of October, where you're going to look at September's financials. So we're going to go into a few other topics. The first one is the wealth mindset. And this comes from Robert Kiyosaki. And he talks about that you have your typical teenager. And a teenager has very little, they have a little bit of income, and they use it to pay for a little bit of expenses. And typically, a teenager doesn't have a balance sheet yet. They don't own cars, they don't own houses, they don't own boats, they don't own investments yet. We're talking like 14, 15 years old. They maybe have a little side job, and they have some expenses. And then you have your typical adult. Your typical adult has income and expenses, a full list of them, and their income usually comes from a job. But at this point, being an adult, they probably have racked up quite a few liabilities. So they've got a lot of liabilities on their balance sheet, but they don't have too many assets. And Chris had mentioned Robert Kiyosaki. He might argue your personal home isn't an asset. I would say it is. So I would put your personal home on the asset side, give you that credit. But typical adult, I would say probably 90% of Americans who don't think about their wealth and don't think about investing don't have any other assets besides their personal home and their checking accounts. So we want to change that. We're here to expand your mindset, to encourage you, to challenge you, to build your assets. And then he talks about the wealthy. The wealth building mindset is to have assets, and this is everybody's end goal, because one day we don't want to work, one day we don't want to have a job, one day we don't want to buy and sell real estate. And so one day we need our income to come from our assets, and instead of our job, and instead of us going to work, right? And so you're going to have your income, you're going to have your expenses, but with a wealth building mindset, your goal is to get to a list of assets that create income that can fund your life. And this is the goal, and it's a fairly common, it was 7 streams of income. So I need 7 things creating passive income. Now that's a future goal, that's not a today, that's not like a tomorrow achievement, but I want income coming from my assets to fuel my life, to then pay for my expenses and liabilities, so that I wake up and I get to do what I want to do every day, and I don't have to go to a job. So what our goal is, the wealth building mindset. Our goal is to have, and especially as we go into our GPS, our goals, priorities, strategies, this is the foundation. The goal is to have the assets that pay for our income and our expenses and our liabilities. So let's talk about the 4 conditions of money. And these are laid out in the Millionaire Real Estate Investor book by Gary Keller. And he talks about dead money being at the bottom, anything that earns under 5%, because typically around 4% is the inflation rate. And that's why that level, because he wants your money growing faster than inflation. Then you move into safe money. Safe money is earning anywhere from, say, 5 to 8%. You have healthy money earning between 9 and 12. And then you have wealthy money earning 13% or more in returns. Now, you can see wealthy money that's where the active investing returns live. That's where the main wealth is built. I think Warren Buffett, for example, has achieved an average of 20% year-over-year return on every dollar he's brought in. And so KW Wealth put together a list of what do some of those investing assets look like in each of those categories. So at the dead money, you have your checking and savings accounts that have 0.01% interest or no interest. High yield savings should probably actually be a little bit higher, because I'm getting 4.7% in my high yield savings right now. So that's really good. And I would say average is anywhere from 4.3 to almost a little under 5. So I use Merrill Lynch. I can send out, if you email me, I'll send you out a list of banks that are offering high yield savings. It's not going to be brick and mortar banks. Brick and mortar banks can't afford to pay out 4.7 right now. It's only going to be online banks that are going to be able to offer that. Treasury bills are still hovering between 4.3 to 5 right now. So you could lock in if you can hold your money and into if If your money can be invested for a month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, treasury bills would allow you to lock in that rate. The downside to the high yield savings, that 4.7 that I'm getting from Merrill Lynch, is that tomorrow they could drop it. It is completely out of my control. It can fluctuate. It used to be 5.02, and then all of a sudden I like got my statement and I was like, oh, it went to 4.7. Like they didn't even tell me.
So close.
It's not a CD. It's not a CD. This is literally like a savings account that is making 4.7% interest. Yeah,
That's a highly liquid account.
it is.
Yeah.
It is. And that is the benefit. Yes. And so high yield savings and money market accounts are very, very powerful right now for dead money. Like if you can get money that's making 0% and at least move it to making 4.5%, that is a huge win. And that could be literally thousands of dollars for free that you're earning, thousands of more dollars per year that you could earn. Series I bonds, they dropped. They're down closer to 3 right now. And then you get a little bit higher. You get into the safe returns. You get into, you could do private lending. You could do owner financing. You could do notes. Those are in the safe and the healthy money. And then you get to the wealthy money. And that's where if you're doing if you're actively flipping homes, if you are actively investing in self-storage or multifamily or RV parks, you are going to get high teens, 20% returns. Now, there's also the option to do passive investing in those categories, but that is going to drop the returns down usually into that safer, healthy bucket. So we're going to talk about risk versus reward, risk versus noise, like how much time do you want to put into your investing, how much energy and effort. And if the answer is, I don't have any time, then you may have to go with the more passive routes.
And it's a
Yes.
critical element to comment is that once you get out of dead money, you go to safe money, healthy money, wealthy money. All those have a time period usually attached,
They do.
which means they're not going to be liquid.
Correct.
They're not be looking pull it, or you're probably going to suffer a penalty.
Correct. So Juan had a great point. As you go up, the level of liquidity usually goes down. Like your ability to say, I want my money back today goes way down. Now, there are some funds that are giving 8 to 10, 11% that say, okay, well, you give us 3 months notice or 6 months notice and we'll give you your capital back. So that is something to look at when you're investing passively. That is a great question to ask is, how quickly can I get my money back if I want it back?
And there's Bitcoin.
And then there's yes, I have not invested in Bitcoin, but
To film as a class less than
it is liquid, right? But
extremely.
it's if it's on the right day, it's a good thing. If it's down, that might be a bad thing. And so what I've done is I've highlighted in green all the different categories that we've experienced, that we're in personally. And if you're on the beginning of your wealth journey, you may only have a checking and savings account, and that's okay. Everybody starts their journey somewhere else. And as you grow, your green text and your assets will continue to grow. And I'm going to show you a breakdown of where, as a beginner investor, your money should be in each of these categories. So let's look at that. KW Wealth came out with some suggestions. These are just suggestions. For a beginner investor, the target for dead money is always 0%. Now they say that's the target, right? If it's going to be 1 to 2, like chances are there's going to be a little bit of dead. But we want to target 40% of your funds in safe money, 40% in healthy, and 20% in wealthy. Now, I would say you also need to take into account your age and your level of risk. So I feel like, and I'll show you, and this is me now, I'm at 60% wealthy because I feel like I'm young and I have a lot of time and I can be more risky right now. So I have more money into higher risk, higher return, longer term investments. but I still have safe and healthy. My journey, though, even from just the last year and a half, this is what I've learned from KW Wealth. When we had been tracking our financials for 10 plus years when I joined KW Wealth. But then I learned about dead, safe, healthy, and wealthy money. And we sat down and we took our balance sheet and we said, okay, cash, dead money. Savings, dead money. Mutual funds, or I had Series I bonds making 3%, dead. They're dead money. And then we literally went through line by line and labeled each of our line items, each of our assets, dead, safe, healthy, or wealthy.
So I get the first.
Yes, it is. And what you can see is that I had way too much high risk money. I had 80% of our funds in wealthy, which is great, but it's higher risk, it's longer term, higher risk, higher reward. We had no healthy investments, literally none. It was either dead, mildly safe, or super aggressive. And this was a big eye-opener for me and my husband because it showed us what we were missing in our portfolio. And so I want to tie it back to the balance sheet because you can't know your numbers until you write out your balance sheet and track your net worth. So step 1 is track your net worth. Step 2 is label each line item dead, safe, healthy, or wealthy, and see where you are to these percentages. And not everybody's going to be the same. We all should target a low percentage of dead money. If you have 80% dead money, you are just, your net worth is going down just from inflation, right? Like, you need to at least get it into safe and healthy. Not everybody's comfortable with the wealthy money stuff, but there are things you could do. There are passive investments you could make that have the opportunity for wealthy returns. They just might take longer and they're illiquid. And so, yes, we looked at our balance sheet. We had way too much multifamily personally. We needed something that produced safer returns. We got into mortgage note investing. We put about 20%, moved about 20% of our funds into mortgage notes. And the other thing we did was we took our dead money and we got that into treasury bills and high yield savings. And we did that for our business too. So my husband's a pilot and we have an airplane partnership, and there's engine reserves. So they have to put money aside every year for the engine overhaul. Well, that money, I don't need it for 3 more years. So that went into treasury bills. So at least now that money is making 5%. And so when you start looking at your whole portfolio, you start seeing all these opportunities of dead money that is sitting there that could be making thousands of dollars for you for free just by moving it to a different account.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Because I've known you now for 2 years, and you just started a family, and I'm looking at these ratios. Did some of that change with the thought process of now thinking of the child and the family? That these ratios maybe were too high? Because I could say, if I was 22, 24, 25, I would be going like,
right. Yeah. Yeah.
Now my time horizon is definitely different.
Mm-hmm.
So they're a lot more conservative.
Yeah. I would say it was more so that the wealthy money, a lot of it was out of our control and it stopped cash flowing too with the interest rates moving. And so in the sense that, oh gosh, now we have a toddler to pay for in daycare, and I don't have diapers anymore, but now I have daycare. And that's even more expensive. I know, right? And now I'm ready for kindergarten to start so I can pay public school rates. But yeah, the cash flow was important. And the healthy money investments that I have in notes, they cash flow better than my wealthy investments. So again, every year, yeah, cash flow is important because now I have toddler expenses, and she just started gymnastics and this and that, so.
Where's that though? Family starts in the harder more.
I know, right? So But what told us that our cash flow was going down, that we were too heavy and healthy and wealthy, or too heavy and healthy, was our balance sheet and our P&L. You know, we have investments all over our balance sheet, but then when the interest rates started going up, our income started going down and down and down and down. And we knew by looking at it every month, something had to change. So again, it goes back to your balance sheets become your roadmap because it is the foundation of everything that you base your decisions on. So let's talk about the path of money. We're going to touch on risk versus noise and the GPS. So the path of money is in your packet. This is one of my favorite charts from Millionaire Real Estate Agent. And I particularly like the bottom portion because it really shows the different options that you have. When you have your investment choices, you can either own something or you could be the lender. And then you have two positions you could take, passive and active. And we're not going to go into a lot of detail. We're not going to, break down passive versus active. There's other trainings for that. But just know that passive, you're not really in control. And Brett and Gary Keller's words are, they control it. Somebody else controls it. It's going to allow you to invest in a lot of things. When we talk about noise in your life, the passive investments are going to be much, much less noisy. Almost, we'll say no noise, usually. And you can lend or you can own things in passive ways. Now, the other side is the active investments. You can go out there and you can buy a rental property. You can flip a house. You can do a private loan to somebody. You can buy a business. All of these, you control it, but it is going to take a little bit more time and energy and effort. And then you could take it one step further, and Brett Tanner he owns probably 15 different businesses, and he'll say, yes, I control it, but I don't have to do all the work because I found the right who. I found the right other person, the right business partner. And one of his favorite books is a book called Who, Not How by Dan Sullivan. And so you don't always have to be just you. It could be you and a partner. It could be you and the right who, the right person to launch those investments and that business with you. I'll give an example. I have a colleague in the KW Knoxville office, and he has a lot of listings that have septic tanks. And he said all the septic companies around him are trash. Like, they're not good. They can't find a good one. So he has his favorite septic guy, and he's like, I don't know why we're not just starting our own septic company, because the demand is there. If there was just a company that had good customer service and fair prices, it would skyrocket. Plus, he has this whole network of agents. And so he might be the brains and the capital behind it, but this other gentleman would be the actual knowledge. The realtor doesn't know how to test septic tanks, but his favorite inspector does. And so that's just an example that it doesn't always have to be you by yourself building a business, investing in the real estate. It could be you and a partner. So this whole path of money to me is kind of like it's like part of the Bible of like, how do we flow the money through our lives? The suggestion for investment is a minimum of 10%, but I would challenge you, if you have your savings, so you have hold it, invest it. I take hold it as meaning savings. If you have your reserves set up, your 3 to 6 month reserves for personal, let's say you spend $10,000 a month, you should have $30,000 to $60,000 sitting aside for your personal reserves. And that should hopefully be in a high yield savings, making 4 to 5%. If you've got that money set aside, then the rest of your profits that you're not spending and you're not donating should be going to investment. And Brett Tanner would would tell you, you need to set this number, set the investment number, and then adjust your others to make sure that you meet this investment number. Maybe donate is a set number. Maybe you want to donate 10% of everything. But you could try to adjust your spending so that you hold yourself accountable to the investment money that you make every month and put aside every month. So let's talk quickly about noise. Noise is energy, effort, stress, time. It is all of the above. And as you go up, we'll start at the bottom. The dead money that's sitting in checking has no noise and it has no reward. And it has no risk because it's probably FDIC insured. And so as you move up, just know that your noise and your risk could go up. And they will go up, especially if it's an active, if you choose the active side. And so that is a reason that you're not necessarily going to jump into investing and say like, oh, I'm going to invest in everything right away. There's not enough time in the day to learn all of those investments. When we talk about our GPS, and you'll see this example, you really want to hone down on what asset class do you want to focus on. And a lot of times, because we are real estate professionals, we focus on real estate, which is very common and is a huge topic in KW Wealth to take advantage of the listings that the opportunities that are coming to you and saying, could this be an investment property for me instead of a listing? Could I flip this house? Could I own it? Could I wholesale it? Could I buy it and sell it on a note? Could I do all of these things? And if I can't do all of these things, then can I list it? Because all of the things, the flipping, the buying as a rental, the buying and selling owner finance, those will increase your wealth drastically more than just your commission check. So you want to consider noise. Again, let's go back to the active versus passive. There are ways you can invest in real estate passively on the passive side and not have to do any of the work. One of the funds that I'm actually going to be at a conference next weekend and hear from the leader of DLP Capital. DLP Capital they have a track record of, usually around 10+% returns. And they are doing flips and all the real estate investing, but you as the passive investor don't have to do any of the work. So I'm really interested to hear from the CEO of DLP Capital because that's one of the funds I'm considering putting money into.
Listing.
No, that's at AIM NatCon. Yeah, here in Dallas. So you can invest passively. You can get rid of the noise, but as you come back down, okay, less noise, it's going to be less returns. So just know that if you put in the sweat equity, your returns are going to be higher.
Dylan, what was that the cap?
DLP. Mm-hmm. DLP.
Do like local flipping?
I don't think it's local. I think it's national.
Yeah, they pick up same.
Mm-hmm. Are you?
Pension.
It's called AIM NatCon, like AIM National Conference, and it's for multifamily, but they also bring in guest speakers from across. So have you been happy with your DLP investment?
Fairly new, but
Mm-hmm. Yep.
time, and I've known them for a long time. So the nice thing is they have 4 different funds,
Yes.
and they're kind of like different points in the capital stack. So you got to pick exactly how much risk and reward you want to take.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I just got into the lending fund to start off on things.
That's great.
I some info investing.
They say $200, but it's $250. But if you call them and say, "Hey, I've got tax, and I'd like to grow with you," I was setting investor be flexible.
Mm-hmm.
Atlanta,
Yeah.
whenever you presented back to the employees, whenever you presented the opportunity to have for purchase a home, do you know right off the bat, like, okay, this home we're going to try to owner finance it. You're gonna give it 6 months to find a candidate that's worthy of owner financing, and then if that doesn't work, we go to rental property.
Yeah, you want to have your exit strategies laid out. Like if option A is to sell it owner finance, well, we want to make sure that option B is good too. Like, okay, if I can't sell it owner finance and I just resell it on the open market, would I still make money? Or would it be a lose, like, would I lose money at that point? And so almost every property I'll plug into, like for example, my flip spreadsheet. I want to see if it's a good flip profit. But then if I can't resell it, or for some reason the market changes and nobody's buying, if I have to turn it into a rental, am I at least going to be cash flow neutral until I can sell it? And so, yes, it is very common to plug the same house into multiple calculators. And again, email me. From another class, I have a flip calculator, a rental calculator, and an owner finance calculator. So if anybody needs that, email me.
And then another question on that. When you strategize, say we're gonna owner finance this property, do you put out the MLS specifically at owner finance only?
So yes, so I sold one of my rental properties owner finance last year, and I did put it on the MLS. I did mark it as owner will carry, and I didn't mark any of the other, FHA, conventional VA was not marked. I still had to politely decline about 20 offers because agents didn't read, they didn't notice. It's not common. And so, yes, I did put it on the MLS, and I did have a realtor end up bringing me the end buyer, the owner finance buyer. It did take a little bit longer. It took 2 months to find that right buyer. But yes, it is worth it.
Yeah. Price it higher than comps, really.
Yes.
Finance buyers, some will buy based on comp world and their rent pay.
Right.
Just write the house. You get them to owning a house for stuff saying or what's trending.
Yeah. And she was spot on. It was so worth it. The wait was worth it because by me selling that property owner financing, I'll make about $100,000 in interest over the next 5 years, as opposed to just selling it and taking my gains and then saying, okay, where am I going to go reinvest this? Like I lock in my 10% return on that money, on that equity in the house.
10%.
Yeah, 10% interest rate.
And how much did the buyer have to put?
The buyer put down 10%. So it was a $220,000 house. They put down $20K. So essentially just under 10.
You got to find the right buyer and someone
You do.
that you're completely 100% by.
Yes. And I'll give you an example. I would have an agent call me because I sent them like, oh, your offer's been declined because you have a conventional loan, conventional buyer. And she's like, oh, well, we'll take your seller financing. And I'm like, well, no, you don't understand. Now I know your client can qualify for a traditional mortgage. So they could take my seller financing and literally the next day they can go refi out into their at the time it was probably 4% mortgage. And so you have to be very keen on making sure it's the right borrower because if they refi the next day, I lose all that potential interest. I want somebody that's going to be in it 3-5 years.
And then no protections in your agreement for that.
So because it's an owner occupant, you're not allowed to put prepayment in there. Yeah.
Do you have is this just any kind of clause that's given to the buyers? I know there's no prepayment penalty, but is any other kind of you got to give some information to the buyers? This is what it's going to be.
The question was, is there any other like rules around that? As if somebody's going to live in the house and it's going to be their primary residence, there are a lot of rules that you have to follow, like no prepayment. It can't be the interest rate can't be too high. So yes, I would say make sure you understand the rules, whether you talk to one of the in-house lenders or one of the attorneys that's going to draw up your documents. They'll be aware of all the rules that you have to follow. Like you can't put a balloon after 1 year if it's an owner occupant, things like that.
Do you have any kind of information already pre-studied you can share with us?
I have an owner finance class that I did, but I don't necessarily talk about like the legal rules around it.
Leverage that.
Yeah. Tough. Yeah.
Leverage that. My client is ready to do this. Right?
Okay.
So I'm just wondering.
Yeah. If
Just
I would talk with like one of the title company attorneys, Matt and Dustin, or Old Republic Title, Independence, and have make sure and get the legal rules from them, because if it's an owner occupant, it's very strict. You have to.
well, but they do have some sort of rules, or some kind of something written.
They should be able to point you in the right direction. Okay, so the last thing we're going to talk about is the Wealth GPS. And the GPS stands for Goals, Priorities, and Strategies. And it's one goal, it's 3 priorities to hit that goal, and then it's 5 strategies per priority. And the suggestions is to always make that goal SMART, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. So the example you see here could be a little bit more time-bound. Add 2 single-family rental, the goal is to increase cash flow by $12,000 annually. You could say within the next 12 months. That might be the time-bound part of it. And you want to continue reviewing this. So you have the blank example. We've got the example from KW Wealth. If you'd like the blank one, it is available here on this QR code. And that is the PDF of this blank one. And then you see the example here about increasing cash flow by $12,000 a year. So that's really essentially $1,000 a month. And so you could start with like this is what my husband and I do. We start with like a little brainstorming spider diagram. Like, okay, I need to bring in $1,000 a month. What are my options? I could buy a rental property. I could invest in treasury bond, treasuries, T-bills. I can invest in high yield savings. I can invest in this. I can invest in this. And then you kind of start narrowing down the options and saying, okay, well, what do I want to do? How much do I need to allocate to each of those? If the rental property is going to give me $300 a month, and I'm going to get 2 of them, let's say I get 2 rental properties at $300 a month, well, that's going to get me to $600 a month. That gets me over halfway there. But how much do I need, what I need to put as a down payment? And let's start working backwards to what would I need, how much capital do I need to meet those goals? Now, if I just want to put the money in a 5% high yield savings, and that's going to give me $1,000 a month, well, now I only need this amount of money, X amount of money. So this will, again, you want to use this, but it's going to help you work backwards to what does this number need to be? What does this invest number need to be? Because if you line out your goals, your priorities, and your strategies, it's all going to come back to, okay, well then I need to have $200,000 of investable funds over the next year. And where's that going to come from? Is it going to come from $10,000 a month? Is it going to come from savings? Is it going to come from the money the profits that I'm making? You want to go back to your path of money and say, here's my goals. Now, where's the money going to come from? And then you can see her second example of a priority is like the money market. She's going to, high yield savings. So you could achieve part of this goal literally just by moving your dead money to safe money. Like, it might be that easy. If you have a lot of money sitting, making nothing, you could, like a couple $100,000, you could literally move it to another account and probably make $1,000 a month. Just like that. So everybody is going to be on a little bit different, they're going to have different strategies because everybody is starting with different amount of money. Some people have different profit levels. So maybe if your goal might be $6,000 a year, $500 a month in passive income. Your goal might be $12,000 a year, $1,000 a month. It all depends on where you are at in your journey. Whoop. And so just to tie it back before we wrap up and go to questions and answers, this top part of the path of money, your human capital, your capital assets, flowing down to your cash flow, you know this, you will know those numbers because you do your personal financials. That is how you get started. Then you take it to the next step with your wealth mindset to say, I need to set aside funds so I can buy assets that pay for my income, that pay for my expenses and my liabilities. The wealth mindset helps dictate what these percentages are. How much are you going to allocate to investments? The GPS is also going to help you back calculate and tell you how much you need to allocate to investments. Because if in order to meet your $12,000 a year goal, if you have to invest, let's just say $200,000 or $100,000 a year to meet that goal, well, then we need to come in here and we need to figure out, okay, if I'm going to make $200,000 this year and $100,000 is going to go to investments, then I need a 50% number in here. I got to make sure my expenses are in line with that. Can I achieve that? And then the bottom part, we use our GPS. We take into account the 4 conditions of money, balancing out our portfolio between dead, safe, healthy, and wealthy. And we also think about our risk versus noise and what are we able to withstand in our portfolio? Can we take the time to learn a new asset class? Can we take the time to read a book on flipping a house? Because we're starting to see more distressed properties come our way. If you're interested in flipping, there's a book called The Book on Flipping Houses by Jay Scott. It was the only flipping book I read, and then I went and flipped 25 houses.
Okay, some can lose.
The Book on Flipping Houses. It's everything. Do it. Yeah. The Book on Flipping Houses. It's the letter J, and then Scott. The Millionaire Real Estate Investor was the only book that I read on rental properties, and I went and bought 11 of those. So it's not hard. It just takes, you just have to start. And you can learn so much just from reading a single book.
Sure done with that.
Okay, so I have a challenge for you. KW Wealth just sent out yesterday a whole foundations workbook. And if you take the action of filling out your GPS or your personal financials and you send me a screenshot, I'll send you the whole KW Wealth Foundations workbook and the recorded training from Brett Tanner. So, but you have to, it's an or. Your GPS or your financials, one of the other. And I don't need to see your just like show me that you did it. I don't need to see the real number.
Format or can it be another format?
It can be any format. And the KW Wealth Foundations workbook and the 1-hour training with Brett Tanner. So on kind of going through, and he takes your mindset talk to a whole nother level. He really challenges your wealth mindset.
And you're guaranteed to be with 25,000.
If you read the book on flipping houses, and it's powerful. I mean, it's not hard. Yes.
Thus, within the, I know this is a whole other discussion, but within Metroplex, for me, is it under opportunity of what you think coming up for?
You know, I have started to, just from agents calling me, asking for advice, I feel like there is more out there right now. Yes, because I'm getting many more calls on, hey, I've got a distressed property. What do I do? Can I get offers from our agents? And I'm like, well, are you sure you don't want to flip it? Because you could make the 30 to 40,000. And then sometimes they say, nope, I don't want to flip it. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. But just know, next time you could be the one.
Yeah, see it more.
Yes, I am. And I'm getting many more calls from the agents in our office.
Yeah, I just had that situation, and I just personally don't have the time and the money to invest, not the time. So
Yep.
found it clear, another buyer.
And then,
Emily helped me.
yeah. And then always know that if you have the desire to flip, but you don't have the money, there are lots of people in this office that have the money. There are private lenders. If somebody in this office won't lend the money to you, there are companies that will lend the money to you as long as the numbers look good enough. And never be overwhelmed or say that I don't have the money to do this. Because if it's a good enough deal, there is a way.
Deals finds it.
Yes. Good deals find money.
Requirements to doing something like that.
I wouldn't, there in a requirement, the requirement is you have to get the property at the right price to have profits.
That's right.
Like it has to be and it's got to be a win-win between you and the seller, right? But they're typically distressed properties, or it's a distressed seller in a situation that they have to move and they want out. And you can offer them a quick close. You take off your realtor hat, put on your investor hat, and you say, whoa, we could close in 2 to 3 weeks and you don't have to do any repairs, and you get it at a great price that leaves room for holding costs and interest costs and profits. And that's really the hardest thing to do. That is the hardest part of the process, is finding the good deal. But if they are coming to you,
Answer her question. If you need her tools about flipping,
yeah,
run the numbers,
yeah,
some model
yep,
what you're doing in order to then go to the investor and say, here's what I think I can do. And they're
yep.
gonna see you've walked through that.
Yep. And so, yeah, and I used to do a flipping class. I can send you all the calculators for that. Yeah, just send me an email. So that's it. Let's open it up. I mean, we've got 10 minutes left, 5 minutes left. I don't know which clock's right. But any Q&A, open Q&A, wealth topics in general.
I know that a rental property that I'm getting ready to do cost segregation on.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't done that before.
Okay.
I've learned now that I can do that.
Yes.
And so I'm trying to figure out, okay, so I know there's a cost to the cost segregation.
Yep.
I know that that's kind of a liability or not a liability. It's going to be an expense.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But the goodness on it is I'm thinking that I'm going to get rid of about at least $4,000 worth of taxes.
Have you gotten a quote from the, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, he's a CPA and he has been doing cost segregation for many, many years. I just hadn't done it yet. And he's a real estate.
Is it a single family home?
It is.
Are you paying more than $700, $800 for the report?
A little bit more.
Okay. You could always consider a second quote or a second option. We have a preferred cost seg company through KW Wealth that we use. Okay. And he charges, I think it's $725 for a look back study, meaning you bought the property a couple years ago. Yeah. Yep. All right. So I'm happy to send over that referral.
Yeah, because I haven't
Signed anything.
But I have a kind of a deadline looming.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
And just to the appreciation of your real estate, what are you doing as far as tax mitigation strategies? Are you doing any of this in retirement accounts, either Roth or traditional?
So I do I have maxed out my retirement account, my Roth account, to do investments. So it's invested in private lending, it's invested in life settlements, it's invested in real estate. I do as much as I can through that, but then the rest of it we do with cash. And we will almost always have a portion of our portfolio as real estate because it gives it a best appreciation. The only other one that I've heard of that I haven't gotten into yet, and I want to, is oil and gas royalties. I've heard that there are oil and gas investments that you can make. Now, I know nothing about them, and I have never been in the oil and gas industry, but...
I'll have to do before.
The fourth one? Okay. But what I understand is you can take that depreciation against your regular income, and you don't have to be a real estate. It is better than real estate. So yes, you can utilize investing as a way to offset or defer taxes as well. And just note, like, notes don't have depreciation because you don't own the house. But if you have a rental property or a multifamily or oil and gas investment, you can get depreciation and you can actually pay less taxes. Great point. Yes.
What was life settlements? That's a new one. I haven't heard that. I'd heard everything.
Oh, life settlement?
Yeah.
So it's interesting. Gary Keller has about 40% of his investments into life settlements. And what they are life insurance policies on other people. And so if somebody is, say, over 75 and they have a $1 million life insurance policy, but their premium is $200,000 a year and they can't afford it anymore, there are investors that will go and will buy that life insurance. They'll say, okay, Mr. Seller, I will give you $350,000 cash in exchange for your life insurance policy. And the investor will then have to make the $200,000 a year payment until that person passes away. But when that person passes away, they get the $1 million death benefit. And so it's a
risk or
well, the only guaranteed things in life are death and taxes. Right. So you're going to get paid out some. There is a risk because if the person lives for 20 more years, you could pay out in premiums. And the numbers that I gave were a little exaggerated.
I mean, it's definitely
but
opportunity because there are a lot of people probably give up their life insurance policies. They're like, I don't need it.
Right. They can't afford it or they don't want it.
right.
But it can be just
Yes.
Contract that you make with the person selling to you, can you lock yourself in at the beneficiary with the life insurance company so they can't change it back?
Yeah. Yeah. They are selling you the policy. And I invested in it as a passive investor. So I'm with a gentleman that has been doing it for 20 years, and he put together a fund, an opportunity. And so in the fund that I'm in, it's three different people's policies. So, if one of them lives 20 years, that could be okay because the others probably won't.
I'd like to learn more about that if you have any.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions? I appreciate all of you coming today. I want to encourage you to take your wealth building into your own hands. A lot of people ask me, like, well, who manages your money? And I'm like, well, me. Like, I don't think anybody will manage your money better than you, right? Because they don't care more than you care.
You don't have tonight.
I do not. Nope. Brett Tanner and Gary Keller, they are my mentors, I'll say, in the financial world. And I learn everything I need to know from KW Wealth. So if you want more information on KW Wealth, I'm happy to provide it. They have 2 different levels. They have a community level and a mastermind level, and they have wealth coaching. So even at the community level, which is $199 a month, there's weekly wealth coaching every Thursday at 12 o'clock.
And I can vouch.
Mm-hmm.
The regular coaching, the monthly.
Yep.
I've learned so much.
Yes.
My mind is blown.
KW Wealth, it's the KW Wealth community, and it's $199 a month. So, and people come up to me and they say, well, I'm looking for a wealth coach. And I'm like, well, I don't do that. And because I don't have time, but if you pay $199 a month, you could have 4 coaching sessions a month, 30, they actually run an hour. And it's kind of like small group coaching. Like you're hearing everybody else's questions, you're learning from everybody else, you can ask questions, they open it up. It's an open floor. So highly encourage.
On Zoom?
It is on Zoom, yeah, virtual. Yeah. So thank you all so much. If you need my card, if anybody needs my contact information, it's up here. And it's not on the slide.